All right, people are always like, okay, Jen, I just picked up the prescription. Tomorrow I'm starting my medication. Walk me through what it looks like at the beginning. So here you go. The number one thing that people ask me about is, what do I eat? What can I possibly eat? So here's the important thing to remember. Getting in a routine, do the same things every day, because then it becomes a habit. Sometimes whenever you make decisions to take care of yourself, it makes other people feel threatened. It makes them feel uncomfortable. So here it is, the week of Thanksgiving, right? My 48th birthday. And I never thought it was going to look like this. It's bittersweet because this is the time of year you get to be with your family, and everybody tells you how good you look and how nice it is to see you. And I feel like the relationships that I have with people now are not so surface level. I feel like people are more forthcoming with their thought process. And I can tell you right now, I know that there's a lot more genuine conversations. My mom said there are certain times that she was afraid to tell me certain things because she didn't want me to think it was related to my weight, and that there were some conversations to be had. But again, I was very defensive when it came to how I looked, which affected how I felt. So I'm grateful for a lot of things, all the changes that came from losing the weight, the emotional journey, the spiritual growth that came that I didn't expect to happen. I'm grateful. I am. I'm grateful. There's a lot of people in my life now that say, you are such a pleasant person to be around now. And I think, was I awful then? Like, what's the difference? And they say, no, it's just that when you spend more time working on yourself, you expect better results, but you expect people to treat you maybe a little better if they didn't treat you good before. It's exciting to me to be able to be a mother to my children with the growth and everything that has happened in this journey, because I'm going to tell you, I feel better about myself, and my kids, they see it. They see it. We talk about it all the time. We do. The little comments, my son walking by and picking me up off the ground, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he says, because you're tiny. Those kind of things used to bother me, and now I think it's great that my kids are feeling more comfortable with the changes that I made, because at first, I've talked about this before, it wasn't so easy for them. It wasn't. They had to reestablish a relationship with the person that I became. When I tell you that I changed everything, let's go back. I want to take this back. At the end of 2020, I knew that during COVID, I had to make some changes. I had already started, exercising and doing things, but it didn't really sink in. I was already on metformin. That was rough. But I was already starting to pull back on carbohydrates, make the necessary changes that I thought I needed to make to start moving in the direction of, burning fat. There are so many different things that changed. Besides the choices I made of what I was eating, I set boundaries for people in my everyday life. But going back to the end of 2020, there was a particular conversation that I had with somebody. There was a lady at the dental office, a patient. She came in. I didn't recognize her. She came in and she was like, hey, where's Jenny? And I said, I'm right here. And she said, oh my goodness, you're never going to believe this. And she said, I don't know why, but I thought your hair was darker. And I said, well, I lightened it up a little bit. And she said, I was diagnosed with, I forget what it's, cardiovascular, some kind of cardiovascular problem. And she said, that the doctor gave me some suggestions, and he said, you can do this or you can pull back on this. But ultimately, what your end game here is we've got to get some weight off of you. We've got to get some weight off of you. And so she said, okay, was following his lead. What do you think? He said, well, there's a new medication called Ozempic. Her name was Darlene Goodnight. And I'll never forget, I saw her 4 months after that. That was the first time I heard of Ozempic, but 4 months after that, I saw her, and she had already lost 60 something pounds. I didn't even recognize her. She came for her gentle cleaning wearing every single piece of jewelry. Now, my grandmother used to do that as she got older. I even asked my mom one time, I said, I think she's losing her mind. We're just going to pick her up to take her up to Randall's, to the grocery store. And I guarantee you she had every piece of jewelry on that she owned. I mean, it looked like a 1920s costume party, except the difference was this jewelry was real. Okay, she's got a dinner ring on that's got like a 14 diamond bezel around like an opal, and come on. And I asked my mom that day, I said, why in the world does she wear all of her jewelry? And my mom said, where else is she going to wear it? I said, yeah, because she feels good about herself. My grandmother she was very tiny, like my mother. I said, well, that makes sense. When Darlene came in to the dental office after losing all of that weight, she had on a full face of makeup. Her hair was set and rolled and sprayed. She had on probably every piece of jewelry that she owned. I thought it was hilarious. I was laughing my inside, but I was so happy for her. And it brought me back to what my mom said about my grandmother. Do you know that when I hit my goal, which was in January of 2023, I don't know why, but that memory flooded me, right? I thought, why of the world am I thinking about that? Like, why does that even matter? Like, because I know why. She had a full face of makeup on. She was wearing every piece of jewelry she owned, had to have, because she felt good about herself, because she wanted to feel her best. The reason I get on social media and I talk to people, mainly women, but a lot of guys, is because I want you to feel your best. There is nothing like it. When you hit your goal, that is huge, especially when you've lost 52% of your body weight, right? People say, I can't even imagine what that's like. You can't. It's one thing to completely change your life, right? I get it. Change your job, buy a new house, move to a new state. When you take control of your health, everything else falls into place. When you start eating the things that you know are nourishing to your body, the confidence, the growth, and everything that comes with it, it's amazing. It's amazing. I don't even know that it's something you could ever teach. I really don't. I don't know that you could ever teach that. I'm being honest. Because you have to go through it, make the decision, go with the new decision, and you have to walk in it. And it feels so good. You no longer seek validation through other people because what they feel whenever they give you compliments, you don't worry about if they're backhanded compliments anymore. You don't. Because you know you did it. You deserve it. What you did, not everybody can do. Not only do you change your eating and your sleeping, you change the people in your circle a lot of times. You pull back from people that seek validation or reassurance, and not because they're on a journey, but because they want to judge you on yours. You're always going to have the people that make the backhanded compliments, right? God, I haven't seen you in so long. Are you okay? You've lost so... Keep going. keep going. The validation that you seek no longer because you did this. And that confidence threatens people. But if you learn nothing else from listening to this podcast, understand this: the growth that you're going to go through, the changes that you're going to experience, the people that you're going to meet, the confidence that you're going to experience. Put your makeup on, curl your hair. You're worth it. When I first started on this journey, besides what I was reading on the website, getting off other people's videos, remember on TikTok, I went straight to TikTok. There wasn't a lot of people posting about this medication. It was mainly about Ozempic. And I was a little bit nervous, but I did my research and I knew early on that I had to be careful of carbohydrates, that I had to, eat the good brain fueling fats. But overall, the first 6 weeks on this medication, I realized you have to pull back on dairy. I would have never been as successful if I wouldn't have taken the extra time to eat right. I wouldn't have been as successful if I wouldn't have pulled back from dairy, for sure. Artificial sweeteners. But what did that look like for me? And this is what I did for the first 3.5 to 4 months on this medication. And this is when I hit my goal. I would go to work and I would take a 30-ounce Yeti cup and I would take the lemon juice. In the morning, I would have 2 cups of black coffee, still fasting. I would get to work and I would have my first 30-ounce cup of lemon water. When that was over, I would drink 1 to 2 more. So I would have about 60 to 90 ounces of water before lunch. I would break my fast at noon. Mondays and Wednesdays, I would do like salads, or I would do the grilled chicken at Chick-fil-A, the grilled chicken nuggets or grilled nuggets. Some other things I would do is I would go to like places like P. Terry's. I would get an Angus burger, or it was called like I think it was called the prime rib burger or Angus burger. Anyway, I would get that. And of course, no bread, but I would get all the sides. The vegetables are good. No fries. I'd get an unsweet tea. And then the afternoon, I would have some beef jerky, or I'd have some just regular almonds, handful of almonds, or a string cheese. For dinner, I would do 6 or 8 ounces of chicken breast, or I would do like tuna. Sometimes I even did the little canned chicken breast, or I'd get a rotisserie chicken. It's hard to beat the protein in chicken, right? Anywhere from 40 to 50 grams of protein for 6 to 8 ounces of chicken breast. It's hard to beat that. Green vegetables. In the beginning, I wasn't paying much attention. I realized that when I ate the green vegetables, I seemed to lose a little more. I also noticed that they helped with bowel movements because they're higher in fiber and they're lower in carbohydrate. So I focused on green, spinach, lettuce. I didn't do a lot of cabbage, only because it can cause a lot of gas. But I did a lot of asparagus. I did a lot of Brussels sprouts, grilled Brussels sprouts. I would put them on a pan and put them in the oven. I religiously made sure that I always had, a good variety of green vegetables because it made a huge difference. Huge difference. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would do little packets of Spam, like the little single serving. I would do those quite a bit because it had 10 grams of protein. It did have some high sodium, but I never had high blood pressure. But one of the things that, you have to keep in mind is that anything you eat or drink will go into your stomach and it will sit there, right? It'll sit there. So you have to be careful because you'll feel very uncomfortably bloated until your body processes all that sodium and that's tough. That is tough. For an hour or two. But something else I would do is I would take the dairy-free muscle milk and I would have that with some Vienna sausages, a little can of Vienna sausages. So I didn't open up with a big lunch on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but that's when I did my protein shakes and Vienna sausages. Fridays, obviously standard dental office, most of them don't work on Fridays. So on Fridays, I would go in from 8 to 12 because it was quiet. I would do my paperwork, and that's when I would have some almonds or some beef jerky when it was time to break my fast. Then on the weekends, I would stick with kind of the same thing: chicken, fish, tuna, your safe foods. What are your safe foods? Those are the ones that you are going to lean on the most. I also did, shellfish products. I did a lot of shrimp, quite a bit of shrimp. Salmon is a little bit fatty, but salmon is still very good brain food. So I did salmon. I backed off of beef quite a bit for multiple reasons. You have to be very, very careful with red meat, especially when you move up on the milligram because it's hard to digest as it is. But when you put it in your stomach, you're taking a medication that delays gastric emptying. It can cause some problems. It did with me. And when I talk about that, people are like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Like so much sense. Because you don't think about that. You don't think about your slowing down digestion, right? So you don't think about how it's going to affect you. But it does. It causes problems, especially like processed, pre-cooked meats. Whew. You got to be very, very careful when it comes to that kind of stuff. But fresh is always better. It's just not always financially, it's not one of those things where people are always able to buy, fresh cuts of meat, chicken, fish, especially not, shrimp and things of that nature. But overall, changing my eating boosted my confidence. The control that I felt through this whole journey, because I made every single little change that I needed to make, was important. I wouldn't change it. I went into this journey not being able to drink water for the simple reason that I never did. And so in my brain, I couldn't do it. A lot of people start off and they'll put like Crystal Light and sugar-free this and sodium. Not only that, but water retention, bloating, all things that make you feel very uncomfortable already in this journey. And then you're just adding fuel to the fire. So that was tough. But when you get it down to a science, you'll find out it's so much easier to create your own little like panel of safe foods. So that if you need a snack or you didn't eat enough at dinner or it was carbohydrate heavy, so an hour and a half afterwards, you're hungry and you're looking at string cheese, low fat string cheese. It's got a good amount of protein, 1 cup of cottage cheese. The protein in that is going to keep you full, and that's important. It's important to find the foods that are going to make you feel full for longer periods of time. Very important. All right, people are always like, okay, Jen, I just picked up the prescription. Tomorrow I'm starting my medication. Walk me through what it looks like in the beginning. So here you go. Here's the beginner tips. Here's all the things you need to know. These are all the important things I wish somebody would have told me. When you decide to go on this medication, go in the bathroom, go wherever you need to go to get a few minutes of quiet, and I want you to take pictures. I want you to measure your arms, your biceps, your triceps, your thighs, your stomach, your hips, your bust. Measure everything, take lots of pictures, side profiles, take all the pictures. You're going to regret it if you don't, even if you don't ever share. You're not taking these pictures to share these pictures. You're taking them as a point of reference because you're not going to see what everybody else sees. It takes a while for your brain to catch up. Before you realize that it takes a while for your brain to catch up, trust me on this, you're not going to see it. Other people will, you're not. And it's unfortunate, that's the way it is. Okay, take the pictures. Weigh yourself once a week. You can weigh yourself every day. Weigh yourself once a week. Yep. And you always weigh 2 or 3 pounds more in the evening time than you do in the morning. So the best time to weigh yourself is right after you use the restroom, right after you wake up. You pick a day that week, same time, same day, every week. That's when you do your injection. If there's something that you ate, you didn't like the way you felt afterwards, or you notice that something made you feel nauseated, make notes. Pull back from that and say, okay, what did I eat? What does this food contain? But, all right, let's stay on track here. Take the pictures. Weigh yourself. Now what? Moving forward, you're looking for high protein, low carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are, you know, synthetic in the fact that whenever you eat carbs, that satisfaction of feeling full goes away in an hour, hour and a half, and then you're exhausted for no reason. You're already on a medication that causes fatigue. This is going to make it worse. You're looking for lean protein, lean. So dairy protein is a little bit different, but essentially you want to find things that are higher in protein, lower in fat, lower in carb. Those things you can find on Google. I've listed so many. I talk about it every day on live. Those are the things that you want those to stick with. Those are the things that are going to make a difference. Feeling full is going to help the medication also do a better job. That GIP, that hormone, everything works for the greater good, right? Remember that what you put in your body is the result of what you're going to get out. So if you want to maintain muscle mass, you know that you have to have a pretty steady amount of protein. If you want to reduce the amount of hair that you lose, you know that you need to focus on your protein. Getting your water is going to make all the difference. It's going to make you feel better. Being hydrated, no idea what the difference is. People can go through this journey and they say, I didn't drink a lot of water through it. And they'll never experience how good you feel when you're eating better, you're nice and hydrated. You're doing 30 minutes worth of walking. That is vital. People say, I don't. You can make excuses all day long. Anybody and everybody can walk out their front door, walk 15 minutes in one direction, turn around and come back. It doesn't take long. The reward will come. You start looking forward to it. And I know that sounds so crazy, but people are like, what do you mean you start looking forward to it? And I'm like, you have no idea. I used to pick out what I was going to wear the night before. I swear. I would wake up, drink a cup of coffee, and get my clothes on to go walk. And I did it early in the morning because I'm from Texas. It's hot when the sun comes up. But I would do it first thing in the morning. I'd get out there at 5:30 in the morning. So here's the important thing to remember also. Getting in a routine, do the same things every day, because then it becomes a habit. It's not something you're going to reason with yourself or rationalize. Do I need to get? No, because every single day Jennifer wakes up at 5. I drink a cup of coffee. I get dressed. I go out there and I walk. That's what I did. All right, whether I liked it or not. Now, on the days that it would rain, I would walk in the evening. But in that, if it rained at night, then I wouldn't walk that day. But I went 91 consecutive days without missing a day. And the reason I did that is because I didn't give myself an option. People say, how did you drink water? I don't understand how you drink water. Is just not my thing, man. It doesn't give you any energy. It's boring. I feel awful. We're always going to give ourselves excuses to get out of something that we are uncomfortable with, right? Starting a new job. It is so difficult to go into that office because they don't know who you are. You haven't shown them who you are, and everything is very surface level, right? You're like, oh God, I hope nobody's sick today and I have to leave because they don't know me well enough to know that I'm not, it's not a game or what. There's so many thoughts that run through your mind. You don't have any of those thoughts when it's a habit. I overheard my daughter talking to one of her friends. She was coming back from Kentucky to visit, right? She was living up there for a couple of years, going to school and stuff. And she told her roommate at the time, she said, if I fly home on Friday, I don't get in till midnight. You don't mind picking me up because I know you get early, you do your walking and stuff. Other people in your life start to acknowledge what you're doing as part of your everyday. That's who you are, right? That's important. It's important that people acknowledge that, especially if you have, a significant other. Sometimes it can backfire on you, right? Other times, there was a lady who lives in my neighborhood. I started talking to her about these medications. She went to her doctor, got approved for Ozempic, started taking it. We walked together for about 3 weeks. And then the excuses came, right? She would text me and be like, hey, girl, I'm not going to make it today. My knees really bother. But it was another excuse. And then next thing I know, she quit texting. And I thought, is it something I did? And it turned out that her husband was giving her a lot of hell about being on this medication, right? Uneducated. Um, he thought she was just strictly taking it for weight loss, and he wasn't listening to his wife. For She was a little younger than I am. For decades, she weighed a lot more than she ever should have weighed. She knew that there were changes going on inside her body. She had 5 children. There were a lot of things. But never once did it occur to her husband that she was taking a medication that was treating things inside the body that might have contributed to the obesity. Never once. And we talked about it multiple times when we'd walk. She'd say, gosh, he's giving me such a hard time. And I would listen, because the things that I wanted to say back to her, I did not want to come off opinionated or aggressive. But inside, I was thinking to myself, that's not your problem. It isn't. It's not your problem. That's his problem. But I listened. And I told her, sometimes whenever you make decisions to take care of yourself, it makes other people feel threatened. It makes them feel uncomfortable. These are all things that you're going to have to deal with. It's not going to just be him, right? So maybe you need to sit down face to face and have this talk. I've had to sit down face to face and have this talk with my kids. I had to sit down and have this talk face to face with a coworker. I heard the comments. Taking people back at the dental office, it happened 4 or 5 times. It almost felt like it became part of her normal. Anytime, and it happened a lot, anytime people would come in for their 6-month checkup, shit, they hadn't seen me in 6 months. Last time you saw me, I was a size 12, and now I'm a size 2. You're going to say something, especially if you've been a patient there for 20 years. So I would hear her back there going, oh, yeah, she's on that shot. And they'd go, oh, wow, okay, Ozempic. Oh, it's another fad one. I heard it with my own ears multiple times. And it hurts. It's hurtful because you're like, wow, you are just going to discredit everything I did and give credit to the medication like it did it itself. You have no idea how hard it was to change things and try to implement new changes in every aspect, right? It was hard. It was hard. So to see somebody in attempt to, I don't know if it's envy, jealousy, to discredit me or what I did, mind-blowing to me. It really is. Because I think there are so many people that are unhappy because they don't know how to deal with it. It makes them feel uncomfortable. It's crazy, really. So I think one of the most important things to remember is you are worth it, first of all. You are worth it. But not everybody is going to be comfortable. These conversations, though, it's important. I still see this lady from time to time when they have like little art festivals and stuff in my area. I see her. She has 2 dogs. They're cool dogs. They're like those Samoyed dogs. I see her sometimes out there. Her youngest child, I think he's like 12 or 13. He'll be riding his bike. Or he might be 9 or 10 actually, but and she did end up losing some weight, but overall the changes that she could have made in her life were held back because somebody else had a different mindset for her, right? That's another really big thing that I think people don't realize. I want you to truly live your best life. Don't let other people's impressions of you set a boundary. Set a boundary. The most important thing you will ever hear from anybody is what you're about to hear. My success and personal growth should not be a problem for anybody else. That's it. That right there is probably the most important thing you're going to ever hear. And keep that thought. Those little affirmations, I have them written down, and I used to look at them all the time. My feelings were hurt multiple times. Coworkers, family members, social media for sure. Oh my gosh, social media. You make a video, and even the videos where you're not like trying to look real cute. You're sitting in the parking lot of PetSmart, and you're talking about, oh God, this medication sometimes just kicks my butt. And then people are like trying to look cute, and you're like, what? I'm talking about the gas, or you're talking about something that has totally unrelated, and they're like, yeah, well, you're like 50. The comments will come. I promise you that. You have to have thick skin when you post on social media because not everybody is for you, but there's a ton of people that are willing to get behind you. A ton of them. The number one thing that people ask me about is, what do I eat? What can I possibly eat? You say protein. It's like our brains just go, like, what does that mean, right? Never in my life did I have to pay attention to what I was seeking out of food, right? It was how it made me feel. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have a big juicy steak. Not because it has 25, you know what I mean? It was never about the vitamins. It was never about the protein. It was about the way it made me feel, the way it tasted. So things are different now because you're not seeking what you can eat necessarily. I'm not. That satisfies my palate. It's what can I get in my body that satisfies the supplemental things that I need. It's a different way of thinking. So I've said it before. Tuna, chicken, shrimp, those are staples right there. Those are huge. Hamburger meat, don't go 73-27, 80-20. Too much fat. They're too greasy. Those are going to cause problems. Big time. Go with like a 90-10, 96-4. Put lemon in all your water. And people are like, God, that's so crazy. You say that all the time, right? Well, now they're doing studies on citrus being combined with GLP-1. So it's not that crazy because now that we know that citrus products like lemon raise GLP-1 in the body. Imagine that. So other things, other protein options. You know that cheese is an option. It has a good amount of protein, but you can't just eat dairy because it's disaster, right? But some good dairy options. You know, you've got some Greek yogurts. You've got protein yogurts. You've got protein puddings these days. Cottage cheese. There's a bunch of good options right there. Add those to your grocery list. I think anything in moderation, but you want it to benefit the GLP-1 journey. That's huge. If it doesn't have any nutritional value, like enriched white flour, bread, rice, pasta, it was difficult to stop eating those things because that's what I primarily ate. But when I realized that they weren't doing anything good for my body, I backed off. I backed off those things. It wasn't easy. It was difficult. Those are the sacrifices that I made that, oh gosh, seeing other people, eat certain things. And I was like, will I ever want to eat stuff like that? At first, it's difficult not to eat those things. And then after a while, the thought of eating those, because you know how it affects your body when you're on a GLP-1. Anything, especially like a piece of white bread, good Lord, bloat me up, make me miserable. And then you burn through it fast. And then you get the, every 5 minutes because your body's just like, climbing down off the mountain, right? It's like a landslide. It's horrible. There's certain things that I want people to take away and carry over into their journey, that protein is a very, very good option. That's something that I would focus on if I was people. I would pay attention to carbohydrates for the simple reason, and this is the most important thing. Carbs, in my opinion, excessive carbs always made me feel worse. Excessive carbs. Anything over, and I'm small, I'm 5 foot tall. Anything over 40 to 50 grams of carbs a day. And people hear that and they're like, God, that's next to nothing. Yep. And that was set by a dietitian. And at first I thought, God, I can't eat anything. And there was some anger. But once I implemented that, I realized that is more than enough. Now I find myself like, I haven't had enough carbohydrates today. I can feel it. I listen to my body now and I know what those sensations and or those triggers are. I know that when I break my fast at noon, I'm going to have a BioCare shake. And that's going to be between 11 and 13 grams of carbs. That is a good amount of carbs. Not many calories, but BioCare has, I mean, what a company. Eggs. Eggs are a very good source of protein. Eggs are a good source of protein. The dietitian that I met with, she said, yeah, there's around 6 grams of protein, but if you go with like a farm fresh brown egg, those are around 9 grams of protein. I said, what? They're different proteins for different color, like different eggs. I didn't know. Well, thank goodness I had been buying brown eggs the whole time, right? But there's so many different things that you don't realize how much there's protein in just about everything. I think that people kind of panic and freak out because they're like, how am I going to get protein in? Everybody just drills protein in your chicken. I know if you don't want to eat chicken every day, I get it. It's difficult, especially when you're not hungry. Oh my gosh. When you're not hungry, having to make yourself eat. Oh, never in my wildest dreams did I think that it was going to be difficult to eat in my life, ever. Never. Even in periods of like after surgery and things like that, people are like, you're not going to want to eat anything. Yes, I did. I sure did. Absolute, like different. Completely different feeling. To take away the fact, first of all, you're not thinking about food and you know you need to eat. So you have to be responsible. You're an adult. You know that you need to eat. That's difficult because your brain's like sending you, there's no signal. But whenever you talk about having to eat, you're like, what? How in the world am I going to eat? It doesn't even sound good because you have to, because you're supposed to, because you need to. BioCare. BioCare. I can't say it enough. BioCare. The brand deals and the companies that I'm involved with right now, in my opinion, are innovative, top of the line. BioCare's been around late 70s, early 80s. Way ahead of the game. Shut everything down. Revamped their whole entire line to accommodate people on GLP-1 medications. That's huge. That's huge. Nobody else has done that. That is huge. Now there's like Atkins is putting out something to accommodate people with, other companies are taking a stab at it. I think Nestle is coming out with BioCare. I'm telling you what, BioCare is probably the best thing that ever hit, because I can sit here and tell you about it all day long. All day long. I can build it up and make it, dress it up and make it, but until you drink the shakes, there's no supplement taste. People thank me every day. Every single day. They're like, golly, I thought it was a sales pitch, but then I get involved and then I hear, I hear you plugging BioCare and I'm like, well, she's in sales, blah, blah, blah. Well, you trusted me with going with Amble, right? I used to get on there and say, I'll go as far as to say Amble is the #1 telehealth. It is, in my opinion. It really is. It is. It's light years above anything I've ever been involved with before. It's a movement. It's a movement, and I hope we're able to continue running things just as smooth as they've been running. But BioCare is making it possible for people to get their protein in, to meet their supplemental goals, to do all of the things that are necessary to be successful on this journey. I was spending over $140 every 3 months. Biotin, collagen, magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate. I was trying to take a digestive enzyme I was getting off Amazon for 30, it was 33, 31 or $32 with tax, $33 for a 60 days. I mean, 60 pills just for a digestive enzyme. And then you've got, a prebiotic and probiotic. Those are ridiculously expensive. And it's a protein shake and a meal replacement if you innovative. Nothing like it ever. Not in my opinion. There's a bunch of companies that come out and they say, hey, look, we're a good protein shake, but you are not customized for people on this medication. I've done my research. Anytime I ever stand behind a product, I'm going to look into it and I'm going to wait for a while. I'm going to try all the flavors. I'm going to, make notes of how I feel after BioCare. BioCare is, well, it's changed the game. Amble, BioCare, some of the best things I've ever been involved with. By far. And like I said earlier, people thank me every single day. They reach out to me and they say, hey, I just want to say thank you, man. I was going by your live one night and you were talking about this medication. I knew nothing about it. I was scared to death to go with a compounded version of this medication, but I took a chance. I don't know. You sold it to me and, it sounded believable. And I saw your before picture and your after picture and it didn't look like it was like superimposed or, that you made it and blah, blah, blah. And here I am 4 months later, 43 pounds down, and I'm wearing jeans I wore in high school, and I just want to say thank you. I know you don't know me, but I watch you I get those all day long, every day. Every single day. It's my birthday on Thanksgiving, and I went to my P.O. box and I received 2 packages today from followers for my birthday. Thank you for changing my life. I can bring you the information, but it's you that you need to stand up and say, you know what? I appreciate you bringing that information. And I'm so proud of myself for making this decision for myself. Nobody ever makes a decision unless they expect that this could be possible. This could be possible for me. I know I've tried 50 different things, but this actually might work. And you see a picture of me and you know that it is possible. And I'm telling you, I tried everything. Nothing worked. It's possible through these medications.